Welcome. Good evening. So nice to see you all in person. It's been a long time for the commission to be in person. I'd like to call the regular City of Vacaville Parks and Rec Commission meeting of May 4, 2022 to order and ask Secretary, roll call, please. Oh, sorry, Tracy. I started without you. I'm so sorry. I'm already fired my first day.
Commissioner Roth?
Here.
Commissioner Berumen? Commissioner Gutierrez?
Here.
Commissioner McMahon?
Here.
Commissioner Shea?
Here.
Vice Chair Thompson? Chair Vasquez?
Here. Thank you all. We will now present the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My gosh, I just hit that thing. All right, moving on to agenda item 3, approval of the agenda. I believe everyone's had a chance to review the amended agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion. And a second?
Motion.
Okay, so that was Gutierrez motion, seconded by Thompson. Sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Oz?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Vice Chair Thompson?
Yes.
And Chair Vasquez?
Yes. Okay, so the agenda is approved. Moving on to agenda item number 4, approval of minutes. I believe everyone's had a chance to review the minutes from the April 6, 2022 meeting of the Parks and Rec Commission. Staff, are there any additions or corrections? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 6, 2022?
Motion.
Okay, so motioned by McMahon and seconded by Gutierrez. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Oz?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Shea?
Yes.
Vice Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Chair Vasquez?
Yes. All right. We'll move on to agenda item 5, communications. This will be the introduction of written communications received prior to the meeting. Director Walker, are there any communications for this evening's meeting?
Yes, Madam Chair, the commission did receive correspondence from Dick Loki from Loki Planning Associates, Inc. regarding the Green Tree development project, including a description of the development of the project, a general description of the project, and some details related to the 2 proposed parks.
All right. Thank you, Director Walker. Moving on to agenda item 6, presentations. Director Walker, would you like to introduce the presentation for the commission for this evening?
Absolutely. This evening we have Recreation Coordinator Kristen Milliken, who will be presenting on special events and cultural arts program areas.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you for that introduction. Yes, I'm Kristen and I oversee the 2 program areas, culture arts and special events. I see many familiar faces up there, but I do see some new faces. Good to see you, good to be in person. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So the first area I'm going to cover is the culture arts. So our current class offerings, we've got our music classes, which include guitar, violin, cello, piano, and the ukulele. We also have ballet classes, and we have many different levels. We've got intro, we've got pre-ballet, level 1, 2, 3, all the way to 6. We've got our voice classes, which are private lessons or group lessons. And then we also have some new class offerings. We've got our country line dancing, our ballroom dance, our wedding day dance, and then we have Cricut cutting classes. So that's a picture of the machine there that you could use. Oh, wait, where is it? Why didn't it did not, I'm on a different slide. Pardon me. Make sure that I click correctly. There was a delay. Okay, we're on the same page now. Okay, so the Cricut cutting classes. There's the picture right there. And then we have the acrylic painting classes, and it's available either on one-on-one with the instructor or in a group setting. Multiple levels are available. And then finally, our storytelling and creative play. And that is a class or a camp option. Make sure that my screen goes with me this time. So we see the same thing. Okay, some of the accomplishments, the first one, the ability to pivot to a virtual platform. Many of our classes, music, ballet, and voice, we were able to, during COVID, pivot to that virtual platform. And music has actually, we have a little bit of a hybrid model right now where we have the in-person classes, but she also kept the virtual option, which is really nice for the families. And then we have the other accomplishment, that second bullet point, updating the Fairmont Neighborhood Center. So some of the things that we did out there, it needed some TLC. So we painted the walls. We were able to go ahead and replace, I worked with Public Works, and they replaced the sink area and the cabinetry. So we have our summer camp programming out there. So it's nice and it's updated. Next slide. I can't help myself. Next slide. Are we on Zoom? Okay. Our challenges. Some of our challenges, acquiring contractors for programs. One of the programs that I've really wanted to bring is our ceramics and sculpting. And at the very, I would say at the very beginning of, gosh, it's almost 2 years now. So it was probably 2021. There were 3 different opportunities for me to, that different contractors that had come my way, or there was a kiln repair person that had come and he was interested in teaching classes, but it never seemed to work out, any of those opportunities. So if you know somebody who is interested in teaching ceramics or sculpting for the city, please send them my way. This is definitely a program I would like to offer. The other bullet point there for challenges, offering many similar classes in the community. For example, I have a picture of ballet there right next to the McBride Senior Center where we have our ballet classes. We have the Royal School of Ballet right there. So just some of them, it's a bit competitive. Any questions or comments about cultural arts? Once, twice. I see it now. I see
All
your.
right. Thank you so much for the presentation. I just had a really quick question on one of the slides where you mentioned that you're able to pivot to a virtual platform.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be for the entire class, or would it be like a one-off in case someone, was sick and wasn't able to attend in person?
So the music classes, that is that hybrid model currently. So she offers the in-person class and then she also is the virtual. So it can it happens at the same time.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, moving on. All right. Okay, I get very excited about special events. I'm going to try and contain the excitement and not go over time. I will try. Okay, my second area, special events. So our special events, these are some of the community favorites, as you are probably all familiar with. We have our first one, Bunnies and Bonnets, which just happened in April. It was on April 16th. It was a huge success. We were able to do a photo op, and here you are. You see the beautiful photo op. We had somebody that was able to put together that balloon arch for us. And we also had the traditional egg hunt, as we've done in the past. This year, we did something different. We usually have bounce houses, and this year I wanted to do something slightly different. Bounce houses are pretty enclosed, and with everything constantly changing with COVID, I wanted more open air. So we did wagon rides, and that was a huge hit, completely sold out. And then the other part that we added this year was the obstacle course, which we had some volunteers from Wilsey Wood and a coach, a football coach, and it was so great. Perfect pairing for the obstacle course. He had those kids running and jumping. It was a good fit. Okay, Creek Walk. I'm going to stay focused. I swear I won't talk too much. I get very excited. Okay, Creek Walk concert series. You all know we are in our 22nd year, and that is coming up. The first concert, mark your calendars now. That's going to be on June 10th from 6:30 to 9:30. We are charging this year. It's going to be $3 per person for everybody 13 and up. And we have our 4th of July fireworks and celebration. That is a free show and free concert. We've got our major concert. Mark your calendars for this as well. Saturday, August 13th. And the headliner is going to be Rose Royce. So hopefully you're familiar with that. One of the songs, Car Wash, I would sing it. Maybe I should. Nope, I should not. I will not. And Halloween. That is our pet parade and our costume contest. And this year I'm hoping to add a little bit of a magic show to that. So community favorites with a new layer. Oh yes, oh very good. So new events for 21-22. So Neighborhood Santa. So we have traditionally done our Santa visits, and that's where we go to the homes, and it's a very private visit. Neighborhood Santa, it is a parade around our neighborhood parks. And so our goal was to visit 20 parks. We were rained out on 2 of the nights, so we missed some of the parks. We did encourage people to go to the other parks that were not rained out. We had such great attendance for a first-time event, and it was just wonderful. So the picture here is with me and PD, worked with a lot of different departments, PD, fire, IT, public works, finance, everybody. I feel like I had my hand in everybody's department. So this is a little clip that one of my staff had put together that I'd like to share with you from our Neighborhood Santa event that happened last year, and we will be doing again this year. Okay, that was Neighborhood Santa. More to come. All right, second Saturdays. So second Saturdays, because of COVID again, we've had to kind of shift, always be flexible. And so this is turned into us having a booth at the farmers market. There's already quite the foot traffic there. So we do have a booth where we have activities and games for the kids to participate in. My big plan, I have big plans. My big plan one day is, I feel like the future of our events really is take these events to where the people are, going to the neighborhoods, going to the people. Where are the people? They're at the farmers market. So if we can have maybe a registration booth at the farmers market, capture our audience right then and there, have our activities, the different departments involved, big plans, future plans, not there yet. All right, and then new events coming up. We've got our 22-23 events. Family dance. So this is an evolution. We've always offered our father-daughter and our mother-son dance. And so we're just creating our more inclusive programming. Families come in every constellation, and we want to recognize that and welcome that. And then we also have our Vaca Triathlon. This event is going to be targeted for kids, and I'm hoping to work with our therapeutic rec department with that. And then finally, our Dia de los Muertos, also working with fellow community members to offer this event. Our collaborators. Our events are successful because of the people we work with, our sponsors, our partners. This is just a short list of some of the people that we work with: DVBID, Visit Vacaville, Vacaville Chamber of Commerce, and of course, the Vacaville Museum, and many, many more. Challenges. Oh, the first one, the planning of events in an unpredictable future. Planning events takes time. And with COVID, we were planning for so many different scenarios, so many things that we just couldn't see. And so having to constantly change and be flexible, that took a lot of energy and effort. It's very time consuming. The second challenge, sponsorships. I know with some of the COVID guidelines that there were some sponsors that I talked to that they were not feeling comfortable sponsoring some of our larger events, like 4th of July, where it was considered a mega event, 10,000 plus people. So having to time that just right. And then staffing, of course, has been a challenge. Last year, I know that, and we tend to do this in Parks and Rec, we borrow from other departments. Well, we definitely borrowed last year. And this year we are still working on hiring some more staff for Creek Walk and our other events. And then finally, that last bullet, price of materials increasing. I know we've all felt this. And as I am calling around and I'm getting different quotes for things, fencing, fireworks, bathrooms, everything has gone up, and this affects our budget. Our accomplishments. This is what I'm very proud of. First one, bringing new events to the community. So we're really trying to bring events that capture the whole community. Like I was giving the example earlier of the Neighborhood Santa. We're meeting people right where they are. And then adding new layers to the event. So having a new spin on an old favorite, like bunnies and bonnets. Everybody loves bunnies and bonnets. How about we swap out that bounce house and we add something different like wagon rides or obstacle course? So adding those new layers. Partnerships with the internal staff and local businesses. I already spoke about this briefly just with the Neighborhood Santa, all of the different internal departments that I had to work with. It was such a privilege, and I just loved the connections that I made. And then the local businesses, maintaining the ones we had and getting some new ones. And then recently, I went to a CalFest training. That is a special events training. It was a 3-day training down in San Jose. And my biggest takeaway, it was so wonderful. My biggest takeaway, yes, we want to have a fun event. But number one, top priority, safety. We want to have a safe event. And finally, cleaning and organizing our pods. So we had special events stuff in a couple different places. So bringing it all together and organizing it and working with Public Works to help organize my pods and put shelves so things can, so I know where everything is. Makes me feel very happy. It's done. And it looks like I'm done with the presentation, but are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Kristen, for your presentation and your enthusiasm and all the creativity that you all have done to create COVID-friendly and safe events. Let's see, who was first? Let's go with Danielle. Commissioner Shea.
Thank you for the presentation. I was really interested in hearing about your new events for this year. Do you have tentative dates for those events? The family dance?
Family
the Dia
dance,
de los Muertos?
I do. Family dance is going to be, I want to say, the second week in February. It's on a Saturday. And then, let's see, Dia de los Muertos is on Wednesday, November 2nd, I believe. And the other one was the Vaca Triathlon. I don't have a date yet for that. I'm looking at May. May next year. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking the question.
Good. Yep. Commissioner Gutierrez.
Thank you again. I've had the pleasure of working alongside of you on several events, and I always love your energy and your passion and your openness to hear new ideas and other opinions that other people may have. Which brings me to my question: what are you or the city using to kind of measure the success of some of the events? How do you determine which ones to bring back, which ones not to do, which ones to revamp?
I know that we are working on a survey. I know for our bunnies and bonnets, that's definitely something of interest for me, is I want to be able to bring events that the community wants. And the only way I'm going to know that is to hear from the community. So being able to have that survey on our website and on our Facebook page, it will be coming. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I feel like you have a question.
Commissioner McMahon?
Hi, Kristen. Thank you very much. So you did mention the Creek Walk. It's opening, our opening day is the 10th of June.
That's correct.
I know at one time you were working on some sort of opening acts. How is that going? Is that happening? Or are we still working on that?
Yes, not, so I'm looking at the 4th of July for an opening act and the major concert for an opening act. What I'd like to do this year is really be able, since I will have this captive audience there at Creek Walk, I feel like it'll be a great place to be able to start that momentum and get more people interested in this for next year. We did put it out. I think we can also align it. I've got lots of ideas. So I think we can also align it when we are doing our band submission in September. So I think we can align it up better. So right now we're looking at 4th of July and major concert for opening acts and intermission.
Okay, very good. And when is the Creek Walk running till this year? Is it the end of August?
No, so it's June 10th through August 5th.
Okay.
And then the major concerts on that following Saturday on the 13th, and then 4th of July on Monday.
Okay, very good. Second question, the second Saturday, Farmers Market.
Yes.
Just a suggestion, as you're out there running events, I know recruiting is always an issue. So, if we could have current job listings out there for the city with the information for them, I think that would be very helpful for the department and for staff. And then also the sponsorships. You mentioned that was a challenge. Is that a past challenge or is that a current challenge that we're facing, or both?
Well, depending on COVID, depending on COVID and what we can and cannot do. I mean, especially with events, like I said, with the mega events, if it's over 10,000, then it puts some restrictions on what sponsors want to participate in.
Right.
So I think it just depends. And just going back to what your first one was, your recommendation about the staffing, it's funny that you should say that, because somebody from HR did just reach out to me and asked that very question. And so we will have some flyers at our booth.
Excellent, thank
Yes.
you. And then the sponsorships, how does that benefit the sponsor? And how are we advertising that, or how are we reaching out to the public?
So usually we send a sponsorship letter. One of the ways I do it, the Vacaville Chamber of Commerce, I want to say they have the listing, the businesses listed there. I use that. I use past sponsors that we've worked with, and we do a mailing in early December, and then we follow up with a phone call.
So their business
Yep.
will be advertised at the event, correct?
Yes. Well, it depends on the sponsorship. So it's completely customizable.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Going once, going twice.
My question was about sponsorship, period.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, commissioners. I appreciate it. It was nice to meet all of you again.
Yeah, thank you so much,
you.
Very
Kristen.
well.
All right, so moving on to agenda item 7, business from the floor. This is the time to address the commission with issues that are not on the agenda, but that are within the commission's subject matter jurisdiction. There is a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. Does anyone wish to address the commission regarding a topic that's not on tonight's agenda? No? All right. I will go ahead and close business from the floor. And we'll move on to agenda item 8, which is, we have 2 business items listed on the agenda this evening. Director Walker, if you wouldn't mind, please introducing the staff who are presenting agenda item 8A. After each presentation, there will be an opportunity for public comment and then commissioner questions or comments for the staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we have Park Planner Hugh Hesterman, along with Dick Loki, who will be presenting on the Green Tree project and the 2 planned parks for the project, the 2 neighborhood parks.
Well, good evening. My name is Hugh Hesterman. I'm the park planner on this project. The name Green Tree, if you're a longtime Vacavillian, I'm sure you associate that with the Green Tree Golf Course, which unfortunately, due to lack of participation in the golf sport, was closed a number of years ago. The Sire family still owns the property and sought to do something new with the property. And one of the things that was most viable was a combination of residential and with some additional development there. And my friend here to the left of me, Richard Loki, will provide a whole presentation on what that means. What you probably will be most interested in is the fact that there will be 2 new parks that will be associated with this development, and the number of residents that are the future residents that would be served by this would only need 1 new neighborhood park. And our minimum standard is 6 acres for a new neighborhood park in a new area. However, due to the fact that the golf course also was providing view corridors and additional amenities to the existing residents, the developer felt that they would like to also provide something for the existing residents that wasn't the backyard of new homes. And so they, through many months of negotiations and meeting with the existing residents, came up with a plan of providing actually 2 new neighborhood parks, one for the area south of what's the street? Sequoia, thank you. And then another one north of Sequoia that would primarily serve the new residents that would be living in a wide variety of homes in that area. So if in your staff report, there should have been a plan showing, you have that slide handy, of the overall development. There we go. Yeah, so this is just for the introduction. Let me use your thing here for a sec. On the left side is the southern park, and on the north side is the northern park. And those are the 2 new areas that will serve the new residents of Green Tree. But because it's more acreage than they actually need, and these will be public parks, they'll be publicly maintained. The residents that are in the existing homeowner association there, Leisure Town, will also be able to use those parks. So they've been designed specifically for the age-restricted folks on the south side, and then a more typical park on the north side. And I think that's just to kind of set the stage for what Richard is going to talk about in terms of the overall project and what it'll offer to the city. So, Richard, do you want to take over from there?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I'm Dick Loki. Michael and I represent our entire company. We've been in practice for about 40 years, based in Contra Costa County, and we had the opportunity about 2 years ago to get involved with Green Tree to take a fresh look at a project that had started in the planning process in 2016 after the golf course was closed, as Hugh has told you already. The city started with looking at initial concept plans, held charrette meetings at the community-wide level, and the council actually initiated a general plan amendment in 2017. And as we began to look through the work that had been done, and there was a large body of public comments, public input, concerns, wants, and a golf course that was sitting there closed, we went through some of the initial environmental documentation from 2019. There was outreach to the community, a scoping session, and the council formed, embraced, as a better word, the formation of a liaison committee representing the surrounding Leisure Town neighborhood to be mainstreamed into the process of interfacing with us as planners, our entire development team, and with city staff. And we never look back. We've held monthly meetings with the group. We've heard some very candid comments and had some great suggestions. So fast forward to where we are today. A draft environmental impact report has been prepared on a overall illustrative and master development plan, for Green Tree. The slide we have up now shows the setting of Green Tree, and this is important. I know you folks are focused on parks and recreation, but this is what we in the planning world call an urban infill project. And those are magical terms because it creates the obligation to be sensitive to what's around you and to take advantage of those opportunities to connect neighborhoods, to create neighborhood places. And one of the things we don't often get a chance to talk about is the nexus between housing and employment. And directly across 80, literally walking distance from Green Tree, is your future business park. It's already there, but it's going to be expanding with as many as 10,000 additional high-tech jobs. And so that became a very important focus for Green Tree to look at not only the type of housing products, specifically workforce housing, that missing middle component, as well as to help to achieve a balance between housing and jobs. Some of the other goals that we looked at in this planning process were not just to accommodate a park, not just the minimum needs, but how do we incorporate recreation elements into this specific plan so that it unites the neighborhood as a whole, that is the Green Tree Project neighborhood, and then folds it, blends it back into the surrounding community with connections, everything from bicycle and pathways to complete streets that put the pedestrian first. We have, as planners and you as representatives for the city, a collective responsibility, we believe, to address our housing needs. It's our generation, our children's generations, but to do so responsibly. And one of our goals has been to reduce traffic and vehicle miles traveled. And so one of the third components of this project, again, not your bailiwick per se, but I want to put this in context, is a local commercial component. Local services, local restaurants, an outdoor plaza that becomes a focal point, a social gathering point along with the parks to address the interests and needs of these future residents. And lastly, I'll just say that we've been on a journey for the last couple of years trying to devise a comprehensive plan that met all these needs. We're also looking at the feasibility of the project. At the end of the day, it is our responsibility as planners, together with your staff, to make sure that we have a project that doesn't get approved and sits on the shelf, but rather can get built. So the vision for Green Tree is to incorporate both on the north side of Sequoia, this workforce housing component, about 950 units, and on the south side of Sequoia, a carefully designed senior housing component that is intended to integrate as fully as we can with the surrounding neighborhood. So to make those things happen, we incorporated this retail center you see in red on this slide along a new street that would connect from Orange to Leisuretowne as Gilly Way is closed, that provides connectivity, provides a focal point in the middle between the highest densities of housing, up to about 24 units to the acre. And as we've done this, as we've added these additional units, we've emphasized walkability. We want to get people out of their cars. We want to make sure we don't have cut-through traffic. And we want to use traffic calming measures where we do have vehicles to slow them down, make sure pedestrian crossing is safe and encouraged. These are noble goals. And I've got to tell you, the devil is in the details. As you look closely at the plans incorporated in the specific plan, you'll see that a lot of engineering design has gone into this. So just as an overview, the recreational amenities in Green Tree include these two neighborhood parks totaling about 10.5 acres, over 3 miles of public trails and a little over 42 acres of open space. Now, within that open space, besides trails, we've got detention basins. Why does that matter? Of what interest is it? On the next slide, I just want to give you a kind of a sneak view at why infrastructure is so important. Green Tree currently has these golf course ponds that pick up drainage from the streets in Leisure-Town, an area twice the size of Green Tree to the west of it. So all of that water flows to the east, picked up in these little golf course ponds, and then makes its way to one of 2 creek systems, north and south. So as we looked at laying out the land uses and the recreation elements, we said to ourselves, how in the world do we make this a real project and not just an exercise in infrastructure? We have basins that are far, far bigger, both in terms of capacity and land consumption, unfortunately, than would be needed for Green Tree alone. And they're necessary. They're necessary to achieve complete avoidance of flooding within the project and to dramatically improve the flooding that currently occurs to the west of the project in the existing Leisure-Town neighborhood. These basins will accomplish that. And so we looked at the idea of utilizing the service roads around the basins as public trails and then connecting them to the parks, connecting them to open space trails, and connecting them back through our complete streets north to south in the project. That's a lot of information, and I'd be happy to go back when I'm done with the presentation to answer specifics. Looking at the northerly park, there's over 10 acres of land here, and what you see as improved park is 6 acres, including a multi-purpose field, sports courts, lots of stuff for kids, lots of shade, and lots of trails connecting them all. We were tasked, when I first discussed this topic with the city manager, to come up with the idea of, and the substance of a complete master plan that was one step short of improvement plans, but that would detail for you, the Parks Commission, as well as the rest of the city, to see what those amenities consist of, how big they are, how we're allocating land resources to them, how parking works, and how they tie back into the neighborhood. So that's the northerly park that serves the higher density housing. And then south of Sequoia, we have a novel proposal, and it's about a 4.5 acre passive park. It's oriented to seniors. Now, these parks are public parks, they're open to everybody. But if you'll remember from the overall development plan, this little park is embedded back into the fabric of the neighborhood. It's not on a major street. We do have accessibility to our trails and our walking systems, but it's designed to be a place that people can get to both from within Green Tree and the existing underserved neighborhood. And so we've looked at a series of different improvements to make that happen, and we've looked at specific amenities in the park that were driven both by our own landscape architect and his experience with other cities up and down California, but also from extensive input from the liaison committee. You'll see lots of shade, picnic tables, even a little putting green. Not full-fledged golf, but a putting green. We looked at full-fledged golf, and, because we're giving up a golf course, it's closed. And so we wanted to have something as a local amenity that would, not just to be a remembrance of that, but something that functionally tied into the park. A small amphitheater, and that's a scary word to some people, but this is very small in scale, and it's strategically located furthest from the homes. In fact, you'll see that the improvements in this park are well separated from the surrounding homes, both the existing homes and the proposed homes. Very briefly, I want to let you know that we are looking at a plant palette that consists of indigenous plants, low water consuming plants, and large canopy trees for shade. We understand how warm it gets here in the summertime, And we understand how important that is, particularly if you're a little kid walking in a park with your parents, or you're a senior and you want to pause and take a rest. We've provided some illustrative examples of amenities, both some of the passive amenities, and on the next slide, some of the active amenities: water, skate, climbing, all of the things, the first-class amenities that your family-oriented parks include. We also looked at signage to not only identify the two parks, identify the trail systems, but the connecting signage, the directional signage that tells you as you walk through Green Tree, how do I get to the trail? How do I get to the park? This should be, obviously it'll become second nature to people who live there, but we wanted a unifying sign program. And so one of our team members is a pretty adept company that does nothing but theme signing for new developments. And if you care to go to the full specific plan on the city's website, you'll see a whole chapter devoted to that. Michael, I'm going to jump now to slide 19. Thank you. And I want to talk just a moment about walkability, what that means, and how we are interconnecting these neighborhoods. I'm not only seen in staff reports, but in our own work, occasionally referring to Green Tree as two different neighborhoods. This is one neighborhood. And we have done heroic things as planners to unite these elements together. Complete streets, by that I mean widened right-of-ways with extra land allocated to trees, to extra wide sidewalks, to landscape medians, bulb outs, reduced width travel lanes, and bike lanes that are not just striped, but barrier separated from the travel lanes, so that the pedestrian and bicyclists are comfortable and safe. That's how we pull people north to south in this neighborhood. And we have destination points along the way, such as the Northerly Park and the trail system. And as we look further into place making in a neighborhood, it isn't just about maximizing opportunities for new residents. It's about compatibility in an infill setting with your surroundings. And we have residents that live, current residents that live all along our westerly boundary and in and around the southerly portion of the site, because that's where the fairways were. And so we've kind of harnessed some of that open space. We've minimized the density and development south of Sequoia, and in its place incorporated open space, trails, and buffers to separate the new homes from the existing homes, kind of following the pattern that is present in Leisure-Town already. Lastly, I'll just mention that, and the next slide, you're already beginning to see it, we have embraced the idea not just of providing local services, but enhanced access to those services. And by that I mean making it easy if you're a resident of Green Tree or you're a resident of Leisure-Town to walk to the grocery store, to walk to the restaurant, the sandwich shop, to get coffee. It's a convenient short walk. It's an attractive walk because it's going to be along landscaped corridors. And it's going to be safe because you don't have to deal with traffic to get there. That was critical in our thinking. This is just an artist rendering of the intersection of Yellowstone and Village Way. Neither street exists within the middle of Green Tree today, but that's the setting of the plaza with higher density residential to the south and the retail plaza to the north. This next slide is just a fairly accurate rendering of what this higher density represents. What are we talking about? Well, it's up to 3 stories, even 4 stories potentially, of either walk-up condominiums or townhouses, row houses, patio homes, court homes, and apartments. And they all kind of, again, emanate outward in density from that central Village Way and Yellowstone intersection. So in summary, Green Tree is first and foremost a workforce housing project, 950 units. There's just shy of 200 units of senior housing in 2 different lot size product types. We have a local serving retail hub, 2 neighborhood parks, plenty of infrastructure, and lots of open space and connecting trails. Our focus on environmental responsibility and sustainability, again, perhaps not a park and recreation issue, but it matters from a community perspective, is this project will be, residentially at least, all electric. We're trying to minimize the carbon footprint, not just by getting people out of cars, using cars less, but avoiding use of fossil fuels in the homes. And to do that, we have to achieve a pretty complicated balance of managing costs with all of the things that we promised as part of the program. That's our presentation. Michael and I are both here to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Michael, Richard, and you. I think at this point, we'd like to open it to public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make any comments on agenda item 8A? And you'll have 3 minutes per speaker. All right.
Son. Good evening, Commission. I'm happy to be here. I'm Marjorie Kelly. I live at 139 Teton in Leisure Town. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to this issue. It happens that I've been involved in the planning in one way or another since February of 2016. Just showing you some stick-to-itiveness here when the golf course originally closed. I am a member of the liaisons that Dick referred to. I also was recently appointed to the board, the HOA board, and I work with the Golf Course Estates Leadership Group. And I'd just like to point out that we have some of our representatives from Golf Course Estates here. We have another board member here this evening, and who's also one of our liaisons. So this is a project of great interest to us. We want to say how happy we are to have a park in the south of Sequoia area in our neighborhood, and how meaningful that is to us. In some of the ways, the amphitheater that Dick mentioned may be something a little bit different, but we now have what we call front porch concerts. And people get out their folding lawn chair and bring it out and set it in the street. Some band sets up on a front porch, and we have lawn chairs on streets and sidewalks and lawns, and they put on concerts. And so we have quite a bit of talent in our neighborhood, musical talent. And so this amenity here is just something everybody's looking forward to. We would like to emphasize that will need to have electricity. So we're very hopeful that that's a component of the amphitheater plan. Secondly, the putting green, I happen to be a golfer, and so this memorial to the golf course is very important to many people in Leisure Town, many who still ask for, can't we have at least a 9-hole golf course? Well, at least you can have a putting green. So we're very happy about that. The trails, another absolutely wonderful amenity. Right now in the neighborhood I live in, there's no place to walk on a flat surface except the street. And so when us old folks go out and walk, we walk in the street so that we're not tripping over curbs or the driveway dents. And so that brings me to the dog park. I understand there's been some discussion about dog park or no dog park and that sort of thing. I would like to say to you, the dog park's pretty important in our neighborhood because so many people have limited mobility. And so you see the people with their walkers and their little dog, and the idea that they could walk or drive over and have a place to let their dog run when they may not be able to walk their dog is really something we look forward to tell you the truth.
Marge, your time got
Okay,
already
can
over
I?
30 seconds. Do you- one
Okay,
more item to
30
wrap it up?
seconds. One of the suggestions made by Mr. Hesterman was that the dog park be larger than it is and segregated for large and small dogs. We wholeheartedly agree with that. We'd like to see the dog park a little bit bigger than it is and segregated. And finally, fencing. You're going to hear more about fencing. I believe there's discussions going on about fencing. Many of our residents bought homes so they could have the view out over the golf course. And so we are hopeful that any fencing that is put up will not restrict that open space view. Thank you, and thank you for the extra seconds.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, 3 minutes goes fast when you're on the podium.
Hi, my name is Lynn Upchurch. I live at 225 Bighorn Court. You can see my house. It's right to the left of the park in the not green area, but I'm the first house past that. So, yeah, so I'm really excited about having a park. It's a personal thing for me and many others. Dawn, who's here tonight too, also, she lives right around the corner facing the park. So we're excited about the park. I want to speak specifically a little bit more about the dog park if I can. I happen to be one of those seniors who's got some mobility issues. I've had a whole bunch of foot surgeries, which mean my feet do this, but they don't do this. So I'm one of those folks who walks her dog on the asphalt on the street because I can't do the driveway slant without having swollen ankles for the next day. So it's really hard to be able to find a place that the dog can, play with other dogs or have a real life. So it's good for the dogs. It's going to be very good for me having all the walking paths. But the other thing I would just like to point out is that dog parks are social places for people. And part of the problem in a senior community is that seniors shut themselves in the house and don't often come out. Even if they have a little dog, they just barely open the door, let the dog do its business, and the dog runs back in the house. And so having a place, a park, and a dog park, in fact, will bring out more people who will have the opportunity to socialize. So it becomes a place that's actually really good for our health. In addition to walking, socialization is critical for people and for dogs. So I seriously hope that the dog park can go forward, and I'm thrilled to hear that there's a proposal for it perhaps to be larger. That would be great. The other thing I think that will be critically important, especially in the senior park, is lots of shade trees and lots of benches because we old folks need to sit down a lot. So thank you very much for your time and for the park. We're thrilled about it.
Thank you, Lynn.
Don Perez, thank you for the opportunity. I live at 237 Bighorn Court. My house backs the park, and it's been the best part of this whole negotiation for the past few years is that park to come to fruition. I have a standard poodle who would love nothing more than to be in a dog park that's segregated for large dogs, small dogs, but give him some extra space to run. My house and the houses around golf course estates, we do not have as big a lots as most people do because we had the ability to take our backyard and look out on the golf course, therefore not needing the larger backyard. The fence is really important. I don't want to see a 6-foot masonry fence in my backyard where I have lost my whole view. So a half masonry, half wrought iron would be spectacular. That would help incorporate the 50-foot green space that's been guaranteed or proposed around the golf course lots. And I just want to say thank you to the Lokis for joining this project. We've come through some really big trials and tribulations over the past few years, and it's really getting exciting to come to fruition. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Is there anyone else from the public? Yep. Are you speaking on agenda item 8A?
I want to make sure you got my slip for the comments. Excuse me. My name is Roberto Valdez. I'm a longtime Vacaville resident. And I should tell you too, in all honesty, I am a member of the Napa Solano Audubon Society and a lot more other environmental groups. Anyway, I'm here because I think, and I'm going to stick to your 3 minutes. I'm here because I do want to address the two neighborhood parks that were addressed, which I understand are 3 miles, each. And that to me is a significant, I almost see it like a Lagoon Valley Park over there, but with all the houses around it. Anyway, I'm here because I think this is a good opportunity. I did look at the DEIR plans that open to the public till the end of the month. And I think it's a good opportunity for the city to really live up to its identity, integrity, which it says it's a good steward to the parks and within the city limits, I would think. And number two, I think it's also safe to say that admiring, appreciating the wildlife is also part of the recreational. And I think that's what you tried to make clear in your city park master plan, if I understood it correctly. Even though not directly, but it was indirect. The other thing is that, with those two concepts in mind, I would like to suggest to the developer and the city that there be an effort to put more additional signage, especially in the connecting trails and the riparian waterways, and where you have trees somehow. I think that's very lacking in Lagoon Valley, but certainly this is a good way to address it. I don't know where you'll get the funds, whatever. Especially because I will tell you right now, the Audubon is looking at this park, our ad hoc committee, in regards to the Swainston hawk, boring owls, and white-tailed kite. They're, by the way, targeted species for the proposed habitat conservation of Solano County that I've been involved since 1998. And they are also, and they're associated species. So, anyway, I would say, look at the residential responses, especially the people who are living there, because I don't live there, but I live in Creekside. But I do go there almost every so often on my way to Kaiser. And I love that park, and I was astounded to see it become more wild when we had the COVID and there was nothing happening for the parks for the past 3 years. I think you'll agree with me on that. Anyway, just to get to the bottom, the other thing, that's why I'm here, just to encourage you as a commission to tell the city council, and here we have the developer. And I would especially want to thank Mr. Hugh Hesterman, who yesterday at the last minute went out of his effort to clarify what's going on in the park. You do have the maps posted on the library, and I'm a librarian from background, and I can tell you they're not easy to read on the computers. That's why I had Mr. Hesterman right now, and he was very gracious to do that, just a few pages. And I read your staff recommendations, and we're going to be looking to all the details. As the developer said, the devil is in the detail, but it's important not only to enjoy the park and then, try to balance whatever other goals, jobs, or development you have in mind within the city, but also to educate the public how to deal with those particular wildlife species and not try to domesticate it. I can tell you, and I'm also a member of the International Bird Rescue Center, that you have to re-educate how to deal with wildlife if you want it to stay here, and we're losing them.
Thank
birds.
you, Roberto.
Anyway,
Over 3 minutes.
that's for it. And thank you for your time to let me talk, and good luck to you and the residents.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else from the public? Okay, we'll close public comment. Are there any commissioner questions or comments? See if I can do this in order this time. Commissioner Shea.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you to everybody that spoke about it this evening. I have a few questions. I know that this is tentative plans, but I took some notes. I had a lot more questions about the basins, and appreciated Roberto's comments. Are those going to just be the basins that were already there for Green Tree? Are those going to be rerouted? What are those going to look like? I know that some of them are neighboring the parks. So I was just curious about how those would be handled. Are they going to have, shrubbery around them? What will they look like?
So these will be built and maintained to city standards, first of all. And that means there will be disking and weed cutting within the basins. Where those basins connect with the open space system in Green Tree, there will be shrubbery and landscaping because we're doing that along the public trail system. So there will be kind of the experience of going through the park where you have lush landscaping, a lot of activities, moving into the trails where it narrows down with some shrubbery, some demarcation landscaping. And as you go around these basins, there won't be landscaping because it interferes with maintenance of the basins, frankly. These things are roughly 8 feet in depth, so they're excavated out from the existing grade. And that's purely a function of holding water and at the same time not getting so deep that you hit the water table. Does that answer your question?
It does. I have additional questions. And to speak a little bit to what Roberto was talking about, the improvements or the additions that you'll make to the basins, who are you partnering with, or what considerations are being taken to maintain native wildlife and native flora? Do you have a partnership? Is that something that's built into the environmental report?
It is front and center. The environmental impact report incorporates a very robust analysis of existing flora and fauna, issues involving everything from wildlife movement to protection of special status species. We have had a population of burrowing owls at the north end of the site. Those seem to be diminishing over time. A couple years ago, there was a nesting Swenson's hawk in a eucalyptus tree that sits right behind the city's sewer lift station. And so there are mitigation measures in the draft EIR to address making sure that those animals are not harmed as part of development of the project. The gentleman who spoke a moment ago was also, I think, advocating for signage to inform the public about interface with wildlife. And that's something that we easily can accommodate, and we would want to make sure that we coordinate closely with park staff and public works staff as well to make sure we're providing a consistent message in Green Tree to match what you're doing elsewhere here in the city.
I think that was a wonderful idea and would like to see that. I also had questions about, we heard a lot about the dog park, and I think that's a wonderful idea. We're sorely in need just in Vacaville in general. And some of the things that the lovely ladies from Leisure Town expressed were mobility issues. So I was wondering what kind of turf or surface will be in the dog park, and how do you balance that with it being functional for the dogs? Will it be a mixture of grass and turf? What kind of landscaping is going to be in the dog park?
Maybe I'll take that question. So the mobility is really important for all of our facilities. The dog park that we have found, or the surfacing that seems to work very well for dog parks, is natural wood chips. There is I mean, you want to balance that with how can a person who's using a mobility device can actually get into the dog park and utilize the facilities, but you don't want a concrete surface for the dogs to run on either. Everybody would prefer to have turf. I mean, that's what my dogs run on at home, and almost everybody who has dogs. But it's very difficult to maintain turf when you have 100 dogs using it every day. And it also, as you probably know, is likely to get dead spots in the lawn or in the grass itself. So the city so far has been experimenting with wood chips, as many other cities have, and it seems to be, I would say that we have very few complaints about that surfacing. So it's you need to provide the access for the people, whether you're in a wheelchair or just have difficulty walking to the main components. That would be usually the watering hole, the seating area, obviously through the gates and into the interior, and then the remainder can be a rough surface for the dogs to run around and romp on. Does that answer your question there?
A little bit, yes. And that also brings up another point. I don't remember if it was Ms. Upchurch or Ms. Kelly that brought this up, but that dog parks are very social places,
Yes.
And it is going to be a community center. And I see some seating. What are the seating plans for the dog park? And do you have plans to potentially separate it and have 2 separate areas for small and large dogs?
That's largely a factor of what the public wants. And we have seen our existing dog park out at Lagoon Valley, where right now we are planning to divide that so that you have a large dog area and a small dog area. And you usually leave it up to the owners as to where their dog should be. I think that is universally desired. And we had one person speak in favor of that, at least one person. I strongly support that. I don't see anybody complaining about a bifurcated dog park. Usually the desire is to have that. And then your second question, or actually it was your first question about the seating. The plans that you have in front of you here now are not highly detailed. And so yes, absolutely, seating would be very important to have in there. And in fact, I don't even know if there's really it's not really a large enough detail to show the seating, but absolutely, there would be room for seating. And that, as I mentioned earlier, would have to be accessible.
What about lighting? I know that this is, again, like a precursory map. What about lighting options? Is that, I don't see that that's incorporated in here. Is that a little further down the road in planning, or?
Well, no, actually, as a city, as a neighborhood park, our code currently prohibits the use of parks during the hours of darkness. And so we don't want to encourage people to be someplace where they're not supposed to be after hours. We do have in our neighborhood parks typically a little bit of security lighting, and that's not shown here, I don't think, but it would be sprinkled in there just so that passersby, the police, anybody who looked out into the area could see if there was something going on. Very low level type of lighting, but not enough to encourage nighttime use.
Thank you. I think those are all my questions for now.
Okay, thank you.
Before I open anyone else's mic, I just want to check in with Commissioner Oz to see, I didn't check in with him on the last item, see if he's got any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. I guess my question would be for Carrie or Hugh. Just what's the timeline for this park? Will there be future presentations and eventually asking for our advice to go to the council?
Chair Vasquez, I'll take that question. Yes, generally speaking, we want to have the park provided not too early and not too late in the development process. So timing wise, it doesn't make sense to have the park built and aging, if you will, if there's no one there to use it. And conversely, we don't want to have it there so late that everybody's pounding down City Hall doors. So we've suggested to the developer that about the 50% occupancy point is a good balance where the park can be developed and then made available for the public to use and the funding will be in place at that point to at least begin to pay for the park, because this park will be funded largely by the park development impact fees that are generated at the time of building permit issuance. So that way, if the housing market slows down or speeds up, the development of the park can be still moderated by when the people are actually ready there to use it.
Let me add just
Thank you, Hugh.
quick comment to supplement Hugh's answer. We, with Green Tree, agree in principle with Hugh's suggestion. At the same time, we're working very hard to look at the phasing of infrastructure in this project overall. We have so many different hardware issues to deal with, everything from building the basins, connecting them, to the streets that connect, to make sure we don't have traffic going the wrong way through the existing neighborhood. All of those things have to happen in harmony with one another. And so with the caveat that we need to be careful about phasing infrastructure, we want the parks to phase with that infrastructure so that they're accessible as the neighborhoods are improved. Yes. And we are anticipating these to be turnkey parks, not fee impact funded parks. We are in the process of negotiating a development agreement with your staff through the city manager's office that is looking at impact fees overall. This represents a far greater burden, these two parks, that is, than is the normal requirement for a population the size of Green Tree's. We're going considerably further in terms of land and capital improvement investments. So we need to look at that as part of the overall picture. I just want to throw that out so everyone is aware of it.
I believe Director
Thank you.
Walker also has a comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair Vasquez. Yes, I just wanted to share with the commission that tonight, staff and the consultant, Mr. Loki, are looking to the commission to give feedback on this draft plan, and then any, amendments or revisions would be made to the plan, and it would come back to the commission at a future date for action.
Thank you.
Did you have any more questions, Commissioner Oz?
No, I do not know.
Okay. Commissioner Gutierrez?
Hi, yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, and it was great hearing from the residents as well. This is actually in my district, and we are a golf family as well, so it's been really interesting to kind of hear what's going on in that area that we used to frequent. But my question is, so right on the other side of Leisure Town, there's another age-restricted community, and I believe there's another pocket of like a mobile home community as well. Are we doing anything to incorporate, I mean, Leisure Town is almost like a mini freeway sometimes, the accessibility for the residents that live on the other side of Leisure Town to also access the park?
I can tell you that Green Tree is being planned on a parallel track with the city's capital improvement program for Gypsum Parkway, Leisure Town Road. We're technically obligated to provide 20 feet of frontage improvements, including landscaping, meandering sidewalk, and a full travel lane. And with that, and the city's capital improvement program funds the center of the parkway. With that, however, we're looking at signal light improvements at the intersections of Sequoia, taking out the existing signal light and putting in a full, complete signalized intersection with crosswalks, safety protection. Same thing up at Village Drive. We'll have full protected pedestrian crossings there. So we'll not only be able to accommodate people moving across the roadway at Leisure Town at those locations, but we're accommodating movement north and south along Leisure Town and then drawing them into the parks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Commissioner McMahon? Oh, hold on, you turned it off. Do that again. There you go.
Thank you very
Commissioner
much.
McMahon.
I would like to disclose that I did have the opportunity to meet with Mr. Lokey via Zoom last week and presented me what we presented tonight. We had some discussion about the park. I would applaud you on this. You have met and exceeded our 1.8 acres per 1,000 residents. So that's very important to everybody that sits up here on this commission. So thank you for that. I will throw out a couple questions here. Our dog park. Well, we are absolutely catering to our senior community and making that park somewhere that they can enjoy and visit. Any dog park in Vacaville is going to get a lot of traffic there, meaning any new park for that matter. We're going to have a lot of people visit that park. So I hope that we're ready for that because there will be a lot of people coming there. And one of the things I did notice on that, I guess that would be the South Park, parking seems fairly limited there. So I could see that being an issue. And on the north side, I see that there is no parking lot on that. So I don't know if you want to address that now.
Sure. We actually spent a lot of time thinking about this with the city traffic engineering staff, with Hugh, of course, with our planners. In the park that we have up on the screen, the Green Tree North Park, we have an abundance of parking all along both Yellowstone and Street H. It is the city's standard not to incorporate parking lots in neighborhood parks. But at the same time, we've tried to make sure that there's ample parking based on the city's experience to serve both parks. So we treat the Green Tree North Park in a very conventional manner. Obviously, we want people out on foot getting to these parks, and that has been our whole focus. But yes, some people will come in cars, and we have a lot of parking there. On the park to the south, it's slightly different. You'll see that we have a small amount of street frontage on White Sands Drive. We have a small parking lot, even though it's a neighborhood park, even though it isn't the typical solution. We do have a small internal parking lot off of White Sands, and again, also off of Court E to the south. The reason we did that was because some of these seniors are not as mobile as the active families. They may be coming in wheelchairs, in special service vehicles. We want to make it convenient for them to use the park. We also have you'll notice prominently, what looks like a paved roadway going through the middle of that park. It's actually a bollard separated emergency vehicle access because one of our design features was to eliminate cut-through traffic, avoid as much traffic utilizing existing streets as we could. We put a lot of thought into that. And so this EVA was necessary to connect Street E and White Sands and to form a utility loop. So yeah, Street E isn't going to accommodate a lot of parking, although there is frontage on it. White Sands does have some, but then we added the parking along the edges of this neighborhood park because of its special focus.
And the reason I bring that up, anytime we build a new park, obviously it's the new attraction in town. This park on the north side looks great. And when you add a skate park to it, a water feature, a soccer field, it's going to be busy. You know, it's going to be very busy. And when I say that, there's going to be people coming from outside that neighborhood to visit that park and to use that park. So I think we have to be cautious of that and just ensure that there is ample parking for that. I do appreciate the trail connectivity. That's one issue here in Vacaville. We do have trails, but they don't necessarily get you anywhere. So I applaud you on that. I do appreciate that whether you're on the south side or the north side, you can access that neighborhood fairly easy and get through that neighborhood, whether you're going to the park or the retail section of that area. The amphitheater, the same thing. It looks great. I think it's going to be a big hit there. In fact, it might be too popular. We will start to hold events there. And that's one of the things. Again, it's a public park, so it will get used. So I think we have to be cautious of that. I mean, our senior community it's going to be a heavily used park, I think. And, so I want to make sure that we're all aware of that, as it looks like it's going to be a beautiful park. Your signage, it's different than our signage that we have at our parks. And I will say this, I like yours better. It's updated. I hope that, we can follow through. It's just updated. And I think that if we could follow through and do the rest of our signage that way, but I want to make sure it's consistent with our master plan that we've already established. That's all my questions for now. Thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Thompson.
Thank you. I just had a couple of comments and or point of clarification. The first one is regarding the dog park. We've heard a few people talk about the dog park. It is one of the most requested amenities of parks. And Hugh corroborated that the separation of large and small dogs is very important. I would encourage you to consider that. It looks like, according to this, it's roughly 4,100 square feet. I don't know if that changes the dimensions of that, but it sounds like that would be an amenity that would serve the community very well, especially a community that potentially has mobility issues getting to walking their dogs in other spaces. So that's just my comment there. Go ahead.
Before you leave that thought,
Sure.
Thank you. I just want to say that you did bring that up with us. We looked at it. There's plenty of room to accommodate that.
Okay.
So we're supportive of that.
Perfect. I think that's an outstanding idea, and I would, again, encourage you to pursue that even further. My second one is really just a point of clarification. We did have one resident speak about the 6-foot-high masonry walls in the residential backyards, and other residents spoke about the visibility and view. And I do see, at least in our agenda packet, that there is a request from the city for a waiver to do something other than a 6-foot-high masonry wall, and just wanted to clarify that is moving forward or probably not approved yet, but that's the plan.
It's an important issue to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we've spent a lot of time talking about it. The staff has spent a lot of time with us evaluating a series of different ideas that we found. And where Michael and I landed, and it's just our thought as planners, taking all of this in, it's for your consideration, is the upper right-hand photograph, something along those lines, split masonry and ornamental iron fence that gives the permanency and lower maintenance, but allows views to go through. Actually provides some level of security and privacy, but still lets views at the higher level go through. And I'm from Brentwood. I'll confess this. Brentwood has embraced this idea, and it works pretty effectively. So in their neighborhood parks in several locations, we're big fans of it, so that's my 2 cents, but this is your call to make.
Yeah, I think that that's probably the most appealing of the samples you have out there. In my view, I mean, have we gotten feedback from residents in the area?
I don't want to speak for the residents. I think you've heard 2 people this evening encourage us to go in that direction. And the comments that we heard this evening, I think, are very much reflective of the larger neighborhood's thinking. So I'm sure we'll hear more about that as we move forward through formal meetings, both here and at the Planning Commission level.
Perfect, thank you.
Chair Vasquez, may I augment that a little bit?
Yes,
So
please.
just for the commission's knowledge, it is our city code to have a 6-foot-high masonry wall separating residential backyards from neighborhood parks. And there's a long history of why that is. It works both ways. There's annoyances across that wall, both from those who are using the park and for those who are trying to use their backyards. This is a very unique situation, as you've already understood. A number of the amenities that are being proposed in here are not typically put in a neighborhood park. Everything from the parking, the dog park, the amphitheater, the putting green, the emergency vehicle access. Those are all things that we typically don't do in a neighborhood park. And so this is, like I said, the design has largely been influenced by those who actually live there. And our suggestion is that if those homeowners support a difference from the 6-foot-high masonry wall, meaning there may be impacts to those people, negative impacts. If there's someone recreating in the park, making noise, I'm sorry, you got what you got, right? But there, as you heard tonight, the view is important to them to maintain that. So in this case, I would suggest that a variance be considered for this particular location. And perhaps even, we may even want to have some notice put onto those residents that this is going to be this way. And if you sell your homes, buyer beware, right? You've got what you got there.
Is that something, if a variance was put into place, that, like, if someone does sell their home, is that something that has to get noticed to the new buyer? Yeah, disclosed.
I think that would be wise, personally. But as Dick pointed out, there seems to be a large amount of support from the existing homeowners there. And so it would definitely be something very different than from what we've done in the past. Also, I should point out the northern park also has a lot of homes that back onto that park. And so this would not apply there. That would still be the masonry wall requirement. This would be the west side of the park and the basin. You see all those homes that back onto that area.
Which would be new construction, correct?
No, those are
already
existing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The park would be new construction, but those homes are already there. Yeah.
Well, I have a few questions too. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Are you? Okay, cool. I noticed in the letter that you sent us a couple days ago, the extensive traffic calming measures. Can you share a couple of what examples of, I guess, aside from a speed bump, what are extensive traffic calming measures?
Can you put up the overall illustrative plan? So I may have, Michael will tell you that I sometimes make mistakes typing. I meant to say extensive, not expensive, but they're really both.
I think you said extensive.
Okay. So let me break this into two categories. Within Green Tree, we can be very creative. And unlike a conventional project, this is a planned development. It's being considered by the city through its specific plan process. We don't need variances to deviate from standards. We need approval of the overall project and specific plan. And so as we looked at our street sections and the complete street in particular along Yellowstone, let me just pick on that as an example. We're about 1 foot narrower on our travel lanes. We're 11 feet instead of 12. And we have wider sidewalks than our standard. This, again, doesn't need a variance. It's part of the plan development process, but it's been scrutinized by your traffic engineer and their outside traffic consultants for safety and functionality. We use bulb outs at the intersections, all of them, to slow cars down and to bring the pedestrian out closer, to get good visibility and to have a shorter distance to cross the street. That's traffic calming at its best, in my judgment. Beyond that, we're taking the intersection, which is frankly, I just drove through it again this evening, of Yellowstone and Sequoia, which is kind of a three-legged intersection with awkward stops where you literally have to turn around, look over your shoulder, see what's coming the other way. And we're doing a small format roundabout. This will, and again, our engineers designed this, and then the city's traffic engineer, GHD, went through their own independent design of it and tweaked it a little bit. It's designed to make pedestrian crossings safe. It's designed to slow cars down, yet accommodate the volume of cars, because that intersection will carry cars. That's traffic calming. Now, beyond that, we have existing residents from Leisure Town wanting to come to the retail center and to both of these parks. And so we have trail connections, and that's the best solution, is to get a trail connection directly to an existing sidewalk. But inevitably, you have places where people have to cross the street. And that brings us to the intersections of Yellowstone, thank you, Michael, and Rushmore and Yellowstone at Teton. Teton is already a three-way arterial stop, and we have been working closely with the city's traffic engineer and the community development department. Erin Morris is here with us this evening listening. She has been instrumental in helping to arrange meetings to look closely at how we can control speed along that existing street. There anecdotally is speeding that occurs there today without green tree, but we're going to introduce people crossing that street more often. So we have to identify safe places to bring people across with the appropriate safety measures so that they can cross safely. And remember, we're talking about seniors. They may not move as fast as younger folks. And we need to control the speed of the cars. So I'm not prepared to go into the details of that this evening, but I can tell you that we're looking at a very robust program that largely will be funded by Green Tree.
Okay, thank you. I also shared the same concerns that Commissioner McMahon brought up about the parking, being at the south neighborhood park, but not at the north. And in looking at the north neighborhood park, along Street H and Yellowstone, I can't tell from these maps, and maybe it's explained somewhere, so I apologize. Is there fencing along those streets, or is there going to be parking available along that street, like, say, like at Alamo Park, and you can easily access the neighborhood park?
You'll notice that we bring the trails out to the streets at several locations. The whole idea is visually to bring the park right into the neighborhood. So, and also from a public safety standpoint, we want public safety staff to be able to look into the park as they drive by. So certainly no fencing. And where we do have trees, and Hugh has talked at length with us about this, we want to make sure that those trees form their canopy up high so you can see underneath them.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I'm not a resident of this area, but I think, you know, if a new park was going in like this, similar to Commissioner McMahon, I'd probably like want to go check it out and see it. And I think that it will attract more visitors to the area than probably, you know, the South Park because of its additional features, you know, the basketball courts, the backstop, the water feature, playground. So I do think that the North Park was probably going to be pretty popular and busy. I know I had another question. Mileage between the two parks, like how far apart are they? Are they 15-minute walk?
Well, we've got almost a mile length overall from one end of Green Tree to the other. These two parks are separated by a little over a half mile. The maximum walking distance to any park I should say this differently, the maximum walking distance for any resident of Green Tree to one of these parks is less than a half mile.
All right, thank you. The only other thing I was thinking about was some folks mentioned the amphitheater. Is there a assessment yet on how much seating will be there? I know it doesn't look very much drawn out. That's why I just asked.
What we have shown here, and it's very difficult to see at this scale, but there's cast in place concrete seating that is, it's something on the order of 30 inches deep and 18 inches high. And it probably can accommodate 30 or 35 people in that range, maybe a bit more depending how tightly people sit. It's not a large capacity. We've put a lot of shade around it. We have also put a backdrop behind the stage area in the middle, which is permanent masonry platform, so that if there is noise coming from that location, it reflects away from the neighborhood. We did ask our acoustical engineer on the project to look at that park and that amphitheater in particular. And he looked at the city's noise standards. He looked at how similar facilities operate in other communities as examples. And we looked also at the fact, as Hugh mentioned, that the park closes at dusk. And he did not see any issues in terms of noise associated with operation of that. But everything requires management and oversight.
And then I think probably like my last question or comment, just going back to the fencing, just in agreement with Vice Chair Thompson about kind of like the half and half option. But sort of kind of at the last minute, Hugh, you mentioned that the other North Park wouldn't have that same fencing. Is there a reason why we wouldn't maintain the same fencing through the two parks?
Well, maybe I should clarify. What I mean is at the North Park where those existing homes are, their backyards would have a 6-foot high wall. And that's for our standard reasons of not causing problems either way across between the park and the
So I guess
homes.
my question, if the residential spaces are already existing, why would that option only then be offered to this subset in the south area, but not in the north area?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't think those residents have spoken in favor of having their view maintained, but they would be some of them would be looking into the basin, which isn't the same as looking into a park. I can't see how many of them there are. Well, there's perhaps a quarter of them, excuse me, perhaps a quarter of them on the very north end would be looking into the park itself. Dick, do you want to add on to that?
I don't want to in any way take away from Hugh's concerns about protecting residents. It is important. And if there is any deference to be made, in our judgment, it should be to protect existing residents. However, we did hear from residents living along there via members of the liaison committee during our numerous meetings. And there does appear to be support for something other than a masonry wall there as well. In our diagrams, at this location, as well as the Sutherland Park, we noted on the plan that the fence boundary wall is to be determined. And that's why we use that note. So I want to caution that it requires that we be, as Hugh has admonished us, we need to be cautious about making sure we've heard from everyone and we treat this uniformly and we not move too quickly. So I think some follow-up work is needed. I would ask you only to keep an open mind to consider other options besides a full masonry wall.
And if the variance is submitted and accepted and the kind of the half and half option is what is selected, how are the homeowners involved in that decision? What if you have one homeowner on the left that says, oh, I want this view, but then you've got a homeowner on the right that says, I absolutely don't want that. How does the city manage that? How is the homeowner involved in like the construction aspect of it? Like there's going to be a lot of impact. I can imagine I have to redo part of my fencing this summer and I'm not looking forward to it. And it's just a lot of time and energy and potentially construction in my backyard. So how does the city manage that, since, I mean, there's a good handful of homes on both parks that would be impacted, and more than a handful, 2 handfuls on both parks.
So again, it would be the residents, if the residents feel strongly, you bring up a very interesting question. What if every other home wanted the sound wall and every other home wanted an open view wall? Mm-hmm. Could we accommodate all those people in their different views? I don't know how that would work, but I think our first step is to have some discussions with them and see if they have a strong preference one way or another.
I agree. It sounds like it still needs more thought and decision-making involved. Are there any other questions from the commissioners at this time? Commissioner Oz?
No, thank you.
Then I think that's it. Thank you so much, Hugh and Michael and Richard, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 8B. Director Walker, would you like to introduce the next presenters?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, I am pleased to introduce to the commission a new addition to our staff, our management analyst, Eric Laro. He will be presenting on the department's operating budget process. And then we also have Assistant Public Works Director, Tim Burke, who will be presenting on the capital improvement project program, that budget process.
Thank you both. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. It's so nice to be able to meet you all in person. So as Director Walker said, I'm Eric Laro, the new management analyst for the Parks and Recreation Department. And my presentation tonight will cover a high-level review of the department's operational budget process, outlining the steps from budget development to City Council approval, leading into the more detailed presentation on the operational budget at our next commission meeting. So I'll also describe the different categories that Parks and Recreation separates their budget into, and this is based on different goals for cost recovery. So the budget development process runs on an annual cycle beginning in January, when we determine the allocations of salaries for full-time staff across each program and facility, depending upon the amount of time that staff dedicates to the particular program or facility. Then during the month of February, coordinators begin analyzing the performance of their activities and programs using data collected from participant surveys, as well as participation levels of programs and activities that are offered. This is followed by a review of goals and objectives set for the fiscal year to help evaluate program and activity performance. And then out of this analysis, coordinators develop new activities and programs for the community and adjust current offerings to be responsive to suggestions from the community, City Council, and the Commission that is received throughout the year. Next, in the month of March, the department receives the base budget from our City Finance Department. We then review the base budget, make adjustments such as removing one-time expenses and reallocating funds when necessary, and we submit these changes to Finance by the end of the month of March. And then next in April, the City Manager and Finance meets with all departments for review of their budgets in April. At this time, requests for augmentation to the operating budget for additional expenses are introduced and discussed. So in the past, this process has enabled our department to add positions like a full-time ADA position and additional resources for our therapeutic recreation program, as well as a part-time park ranger and a full-time park planner. So in May, the first budget study session with council is conducted, and this is where department budgets are first presented. And then a second budget study session is conducted with council in June, in early June, followed by the adoption of the budget during the last meeting in June. So I know there's a question earlier about how coordinators receive feedback for their programs and make adjustments and changes, and it's through these participation surveys here. So this slide displays some sample questions that are on our participant surveys. The feedback from these assists coordinators with making necessary changes and adjustments to existing activities, and with developing new programs to budget for in upcoming years. The surveys are typically emailed automatically through our recreational software after the end of the program. And in addition to the general questions that are listed here on the slide, coordinators also can include specific questions to the activity that customers participated in to capture any suggestions for improvements of that particular activity. The last bulleted question, what future programs or classes would you like the City of Vacaville to offer you or your family in the future? This question provides guidance to the coordinators on potential program enhancements or additions during the budgeting process. The department's operations budget is made up of 4 different categories. These are pay-to-play programs, community well-being programs, facilities, and administration. And our budget also currently funds a total of 22 full-time positions and anywhere between 150 to 250 non-full-time positions depending on the season. Parks and Rec manages 13 programs and over 500 activities are offered through our recreational registration software each year. Additionally, the department offers many other programs that do not require registration. These programs are either categorized as pay-to-play or community well-being. The pay-to-play programs are expected to cover their costs of services, supplies, and staff, and also have the goal of contributing to coverage of citywide overhead. Examples of activities under this category include preschool, before and after school programs, t-ball, swim lessons, adult softball, and music lessons. The Community Wellbeing Program receives subsidy or support from the general fund. These programs are subsidized because they are designed to expand recreational opportunities, provide equity and inclusion among Vacaville residents. Their purpose is to bring the community together and provide inclusivity to a diverse population within the community and are intentionally offered at low to no cost. Examples of activities under these programs are special events such as 4th of July and Creek Walk, therapeutic recreation activities such as the sensory room, teen events such as VacaCon, and various seniors classes and excursions. And then program coordinators are going to present their programs for both pay-to-play and community well-being categories in detail throughout the year at various commission meetings like the one earlier tonight from Kristen. And some new programs for the upcoming fiscal year will be introduced during the fiscal year 2023 budget presentation. Our next category is facilities, and this consists of buildings used for events, programs, trainings, meetings, and private rentals. The department's longstanding goal in this category is to subsidize facilities at 50%. Facilities are subsidized in part because of necessary city usage of the buildings that is not related to program offerings but still incur operating costs and limit the availability for facilities to be used for revenue generating activities. So some examples of these are other city departments' use of facilities for testing, workshops, trainings, assessment centers, and interviews. The administration category supports a variety of activities related to programs, facilities, and projects. Some of these items include park planning, project management, the production, printing, and mailing of the events guide, part-time registration staff at the front counters, recreation management, and department-wide technology. Administration staff also support the City Council and the Parks and Recreation Commission and various committees such as the Art Advisory Committees and the Project Review Committee. In addition to this, they maintain partnerships with groups and organizations such as Travis Air Force Base, Peña-Adobe Historic Society, Vacaville Unified School District, and the Solano County Office of Education. This area does not recover costs directly. However, administrative staff do actively pursue funding through grants and sponsorships to support the reduction of park facility and program costs. And this concludes the presentation on the budget process. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the commissioners for Eric? Or do I need to open to public comment first? Public. There's no one there. They've all left us. Any commissioner comments? Any commissioner comments or questions for Eric? No? All right.
All right, well then I will turn it over to Tim, who will be presenting on the capital improvement program process.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Chair Vasquez?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that you do officially open and close for public comment. You may want to do that after.
At the end of
just at some point.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening. Again, my name's Tim Burke. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works, and I am in charge of the Capital Improvement Program for the City of Vacaville. So, Sorry about this. Thought there was a delay on the moving to the slide, but go to the next slide. There we go. Sorry. Just had to come over and then it would go over. So what a capital improvement program is a critical planning tool that the city uses to identify our capital needs of the community and set and to meet the goals of various elements of the city's strategic plan. These capital needs are identified in a variety of ways. They include master plans, safety needs, any kind of citizen concerns, any planned repairs and upkeep of city facilities. A lot of times grant-funded improvements go into our capital improvement program, any kind of redevelopment plans or any kind of growth infrastructure need. The program is used by the city to identify and track capital improvement project financing, priorities, and schedule. CIP funding is typically appropriated on an annual basis, coinciding with the city's budget process. So the first step is to identify if your need is and project is a CIP project, and should it go into the program. So the capital improvement program is any addition or alteration to any real property or infrastructure that substantially adds value to that real property and becomes a part of that real property as a permanent fixture. So what does all that mean? Here are some examples of capital improvement projects. Landscaping in the middle of a street median, any kind of sewer, water, storm drainage facility that's installed in the public right-of-way and is being maintained by the city. City facilities, for instance, City Hall there in the bottom left. And even art projects that are incorporated and owned by the city, similar to the flowers over on Leisure Town Road. What's not a CIP project, any kind of events, things like that are going to be temporary in nature, or any kind of miscellaneous furniture, computers, those types of things. Those are not considered capital improvement program project. So one thing that I like to kind of simplify it down to is if you can hire a contractor to perform the work, it's probably a capital improvement program project. And if you want to order it on Amazon or Office Depot, it's probably not. So next step in adding a project to the CIP program is first identify the scope of work. This can be as large as a master plan, identifying a project and putting together a very detailed scope of work of what that project's going to be. Project budget, we need to identify a funding source and then also any kind of estimate on how much that's going to cost. And then, of course, we want to know what kind of schedule when this is going to be built, and if there is funding on the project, if it has any kind of deadlines, things like that. Typically, a project sponsor, every project has a project sponsor, and it's either a department or division that identifies that need. It could be Parks and Rec Department, it could be Public Works Department. And then whoever is the project sponsor is responsible for any kind of funding associated with that need. For instance, fiscal year 2012, 2013, Parks and Rec identified the need for a new neighborhood park in the North Village subdivision, because it was due to a new subdivision and growth. Parks and Rec development impact fees were identified for that project. It was put into the program, and once we secured enough funding for the project was designed and finally constructed, and that's what we have out there today, built in 2017. Another example that we have here is Public Works project, Leisure Town Road. We widened Leisure Town Road from 2 lanes to 4 lanes as part of the Jepson Parkway concept project as a reliever route to Interstate 80. That we used not only traffic impact fees, but state and federal grants. There's a photo of the intersection with the roundabout at Bandon and Leisure Town. So getting to our budgeting process for capital improvement program for this year, this upcoming fiscal year, 2022-23. We've done the first 3 items where we've approved the budget schedule, and then sponsoring departments like Parks and Rec and Public Works, Utilities have were given their fund balances on impact fees, and so that they could use those to start to put the funding sources where they needed projects. And then mid-April, those departments went ahead and provided Public Works with a worksheet showing each project that they want to go ahead and allocate funding to, and provided a scope of work. Upcoming, we are going to be presenting the whole CIP budget for the next fiscal year to our department heads and city manager. And we will bring those projects to our planning commission, all the new projects, just the new projects. Our planning commission will verify that those meet the general plan consistency and kind of identifying a kind of environmental process that we're going to have to go through. And then finally, in June, we will present the CIP budget to City Council, and at the final meeting in June, they'll hopefully adopt that CIP budget. So current Parks and Rec projects that are currently in the CIP, we have various master plans, including the citywide Parks and Rec master plan, Alpatch, Nelson Park. We have projects that are ultimately going to be paid for by impact fees, but the developer that's building right next to these parks are most likely going to be building these projects, including Roberts Ranch Community Park and the dog park right alongside it, the Farmstead Neighborhood Park, which is actually built, Vanden Meadows Neighborhood Park, and then the Magnolia Phase 2 Park. Mesorem funded park improvements include, that were funded last year, Alamo Creek, Meadowlands, Pheasant Country, Sierra Vista, and Trower Park. Also in the CIP currently from last year's budget was Centennial and Arlington Park ball field lighting, various sports court resurfacing projects, and we also have an adaptive sensory equipment installation at various locations. All those are in our CIP. Moving forward with this upcoming year, while we don't have as robust as projects as last year, staff and council has looked to try and complete those projects from last year before moving forward with additional Mesorem money on big park projects. But we do have a number of repair and replacement projects. Some of those include the Nelson Park central driveway, AC repair, bleacher replacements at Arlington Park. Georgia Duke Center is we're gonna be allocating some money for a boxing ring. Davis Street Center, replacement of gymnastics spring floor and uneven bars. And then some various repairs and upgrades at UCC and VPAT. So after the adoption of the budget, I'm going to go quickly through what the state requires the city to do as far as building a CIP project. In some cases, like I identified earlier, it's beneficial and most cost-effective to have a project built in conjunction with a development. They're out there, they're building, and so we get kind of the economy of scale, cost-effectiveness of them building the project. So that's happening with Roberts Ranch. That's what's being proposed to happen with the Green Tree development. But then there are the majority of our projects that the city funds and bids and builds. What we do is we follow the Uniform Cost Accounting Act that the state has identified. Any project that is less than $60,000, we can either do it with our own city forces, or we can negotiate a contract with a developer. Similar to what you would do if you were hiring somebody to do work on your own house. Just, call up a contractor. Hey, this is what I'd like to do. Kind of detail, give them a quick scope of work, and they would provide you with a proposal. Above $60,000, and above $60,000, we can't do with our own city forces. We can't just call up a contractor. We've got to put together plans and specifications, and it has to be put out to bid. Now, between $60,000 and $175,000, it can be awarded by the Director of Public Works or the city manager. But anything over $175,000, which these days it's most projects, that's going to have to go to council and get awarded. Once bids are done, it's time to construct the project and then finally cut the ribbon. So that was a quick, brief overview of our capital improvement program. So if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to try and answer.
Maybe I'll open it to the public if there's any questions or comments for agenda item 8B for Eric or Tim. I'll close public comment. Commissioner comments or questions for Tim? Go ahead, Commissioner Shea.
So thank you for sharing all of that. Are there other projects that are proposed that might fit within all the criteria to be a capital improvement project that don't end up getting approved or, done? And if so, what happens to those projects? Do they just get put on a back burner? Are they still considered at a later date, or they just kind of go away?
Well, that's a good question. And so, I mean, we have had some projects over the years where we've decided, early on to allocate money and a scope of work to a project. And then for some reason or another, whether the council wants to utilize that money for some other purpose, they may defund the project. They may just ask that project to be on hold. We have a number of projects where, where you get into the environmental phase, and it can kind of stall the project, and getting that project over the hurdles. It might, be a lot more money that council doesn't want to allocate the additional funds for. So we have had projects in the past like that where it was identified early on as a CIP project. We allocated some money to it. And then for one various reason or another, that money had been taken back and allocated to different projects. And so it would just kind of fade away.
Would you say that most of the projects that don't end up getting executed are because of some kind of extenuating circumstance, like that, wasn't foreseen at the beginning? Are there any that just
Yes.
kind of don't have maybe a lot of interest?
I would say that most of them, the ones that I can think of, they've run into some problem. We had a detention basin project that we came very close to building. That was a public works project. It was about $6 million back in 2011 or 12. And when we started excavating, we uncovered Native American artifacts. And so that just put the whole kibosh on the job. We lost a lot of our grant funding to build that. It's still a project on the books, but it's where we were going to build it during that time frame. It's now 10 years later, and we're still kind of waiting for funding and things like that.
Thank you.
Director Walker has a comment too.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Vasquez. I was just going to say that another really good example of that would be our desire to put a permanent stage down at Creek Walk. And so after trying every which way to get that to work, we just determined that it wasn't feasible. So that was a project that had been funded, but we weren't able to move forward with it. So those monies were moved over to another project.
Any other questions from the commission? I did have one question. You showed 2 slides of 2 different projects, and they both kind of ranged about the 4 to 5 years of actual completion. Is that a typical timeline for a CIP project? Does it range?
It really ranges. We have some as CIP projects that have a low dollar amount, and that our city maintenance crews can go in there and do something real quick, and it can happen as soon as the city council allocates the funding. They can bang it out in a month or 2. And then, we have some projects that, all right, this is going to be a long, arduous project. It's going to go into a full environmental review. Some projects we have where we'll start them with a certain amount of money, get the master plan going, and then we might need to wait around to collect some more funds to go ahead and finally build that project. So it can be a wide range of timing.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Oz, did you have any questions for Eric or Tim?
Thank you, Chair Vasquez. I have no questions, but just want to thank them for the presentation.
All right. Well, thank you. Yes, thank you both for the presentation. And again, welcome, Eric, to Parks and Rec. I did say, as part of my chair responsibilities, I would encourage a 5-minute break at the 2-hour mark, and we are at 2:10. So just want to honor that, and let's break for 5 minutes. I don't know, do I have to say anything official to break? Okay, we're going on a 5-minute break. All right, we're gonna go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Thank you all for the 5-minute recess, much appreciated. We are now on agenda item 9, committee reports. For 9A, we have Play for All Committee Commissioner Berman, but he is not with us tonight to provide the update. So we will move on to 9B, VPAT season of shows, Commissioner McMahon. Would you like to provide us with a quick update? There you go. Oh, yep. Okay, let me try that one more time. There
Thank you very much. Yes, we did have an opportunity to meet on the 28th of April. Not much to report. We are currently looking at several different acts, and it's a bit tricky to get national acts into a 500 seat theater based upon their schedules and costs. So we're working that now. Venue Tech, we're working closely with them, and hopefully in the next month or so, we should have something to report, and it will eventually go out in our upcoming events guide. I am happy to report that Easton Corbin is performing at the VPAT on May the 6th. Last I heard, it is nearly sold out. I think there might be a few tickets available. And there's also now been an added opening act, Jennifer Bell. She's an upcoming country artist from Sacramento. So she is opening for other big country acts, I think Big and Rich, and now Easton Corbin here in Vacaville. So if you have an opportunity to go to that show on Friday, I think it's going to be a great show. It seems to get a lot of attention from Vacaville residents as well as other people. So we're looking to fill that theater. So that's all I have to report. Hopefully next meeting we'll have some firm names, I'm hoping, and we can report on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner McMahon. Are there any questions or comments? No? Okay, we will move on to agenda item 10, which are reports of the park planner. So Park Planner Gonzalez, if you'd like to kick it off with your reports.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. It's great to see you all in person. Just a moment of levity. I want to thank the chair for the 5-minute break, which was much needed.
I'm winning in some areas.
I promise to keep my updates brief, and I'm going to sort of run through all of them and stick around for a few minutes if you guys have any questions for me. My first update is in regards to the Mesorem District park projects. City staff is going to be meeting with a couple of the city council members on Sierra Vista and Trower Parks. The rest of the park projects are moving forward, so they're on the same schedule. Second update is in regards to North Village Area Plan 2. Tim, I believe he briefly touched on Area Plan 1 and Corderos Park. We're working with the developer on Area Plan 2, which is going to have a brand new park. And so one of the things that we're currently working on is the development agreement. If the project stays on course, then we could see a park master plan as soon as the June commission meeting. So that'll be coming your way soon. Update number 3 is in regards to the water play. At our last commission meeting, Chairwoman Vasquez expressed interest in water play information. So Parks and Rec staff and Public Works staff is working together to compile information for various water features that include construction costs, maintenance costs, and just the different types of equipment. And that'll be coming your way at some point in the future. And my last update is actually in regards to Lagoon Valley Park. So Gelati, who is the contractor for the Lower Lagoon project, announced that they're planning on closing the front gate at the Lagoon Valley Park beginning Monday, May the 2nd. They're going to continue this for 4 weeks so they can install the sewer main at the park. And this closure will be in effect from Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5. Park users will be directed to use the south gate during these times, and there's already signage up. The current map could be seen at the developer website, which is up on the screen now. And that's lagoon-valley.com. And it's also on the city website. Those are my updates.
All right, are there any commissioner questions or comments for Park Planner Gonzalez? Commissioner Shea.
Will the closure at Lagoon Valley, thank you for your presentation, sorry, we're all a little stir crazy up here. Will the closure affect any other operations at the park, any other functionality or access to anywhere else, or is it just the gate or like that side of the park?
Yeah, my understanding is that there is no impact. All of the uses at the park are still accessible. It's only where they're installing that particular utility.
Okay.
So you can still access it via the back entrance, and I believe there is a certain point that you can't drive past, but I believe it's past the parking lot, and all other areas are accessible.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions or comments? We don't have to do public comment on the updates, do we?
No.
All right, well, thank you, Park Planner Gonzalez, much appreciated for your presentation. Moving on to agenda item 11, reports of the recreation manager, Melody Ocampo. Oh, you're over there.
Good evening.
If you wouldn't mind, please providing the commission with your report updates. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I've got co-manager Reggie Hubbard over there clicking through, and I'm sure he'll have these up shortly. You got to slide it over or just launch the presentation. There we go. All right. We can skip this one. This is just the title slide. This is the boring one. So just a few quick updates. We've got our new summer events guide. And as you may recall, we actually published all our upcoming summer camps. There is some repeat information here. And this will be hitting mailboxes either by the end of this week or early next. So this is currently with the printer, and you'll be seeing it soon. Next slide. All right, as Kristen mentioned earlier this evening, we are really excited to announce the Creek Walk Summer Concert Series. And you can see all the groups that are going to be performing this season. So we've got quite a variety here. And then we have a new element. Kristen talked about bringing new layers to our favorite events. And this is a new thing where we are encouraging people to celebrate their birthday at Creek Walk. So it's a $125 fee, but we're kind of reserving a picnic area and kind of do it up so that this can kind of be a way that you want to celebrate. There will only be one per concert. So this will be kind of a new feature and something that will help support, paying for those bands and the different, it gets quite expensive. The sound and costs are only increasing. So we're just trying to continue to support the cost for running the event. And this is just one new fun element that we're incorporating. So, next slide. All right, and as she mentioned, I heard a few, it seems like gasps of expiration or excitement, and for Rolls Royce, this is one I'm really excited about. I will be the bearer of bad news in that they did not agree to a meet and greet, and so I'm still like boo-hooing about that, but maybe there's still some time to try and negotiate that out of them. But that's going to be happening on Saturday, August 13th. As you see here, I'm encouraging everyone to get their tickets early, $25 pre-sale. This is not included in that regular season pass with Creek Walk. This is an additional cost. As you can imagine, it costs a lot more to bring a big name such as this to our wonderful Andrews Park and that Creek Walk Plaza. So we're just really excited to have a big name and a big concert going again at the park. So I can't wait to be at this one. And then next, we have Open Swim. Very excited to have this back in its true form. Last year it was operating, but it was limited, and there was, just the COVID restrictions. We will, of course, be keeping safety measures and precautions in place, but we're just really excited to have our traditional Open Swim back. It opens Memorial Day weekend, so weekends only, starting May 28th. And then it will be open every day once the school lets out, and that'll be starting on June 6th. And then, of course, I could not present without just, again, saying we are hiring. We do want more staff. We want to be able to offer more, and we can only do that if we can get some more folks on board. As Eric mentioned, we employ about 150 to 250 part-time staff, and and we're not near that 250 mark right now, so we want to be. That would be, you know, typical for our summer season, and so we're encouraging. We've done some on-the-spot hiring as much as we can, considering it is a city job, and we're trying to get out there more. But please help us, you know, spread the word. I know many of you are, so I thank you for that. And that is it. Any questions? Any questions or comments for Recreation Manager Melody Ocampo? Commissioner Shea.
I love the idea about having birthdays at the Creek Walk. That's very innovative. What have you guys fleshed that out yet? What it will look like? What will be offered with that package?
You know,
I mean, I'm interested for myself. So.
I will have Kristen email you because I don't remember off the top of my head. I know that it has to do with really reserving that picnic area, and I think there are some added benefits. I think. Don't quote me. I think there will be some kind of delivery of the food, a little runner, maybe someone who's going to go and fetch the beers for you, things
Sounds
like that.
brilliant.
Again, don't quote me on those. I should have come more prepared with details, but I will make sure that you all receive those.
Thank you.
I had a follow-up question on the Rolls Royce concert.
Okay.
When did you say the pre-sale tickets were going on sale? Or did you say that?
I don't think they've been released yet, so we have to get them their first deposit check before we can start selling tickets, but we do have authorization to start advertising, so we're going to get that, you know, as soon as those are up and running, I will make sure that an e-blast goes out.
Yeah, I think there's some commissioners that may want to attend.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments for Melody? No? Okay. So moving on to agenda item 12, reports of the director. Director Walker, would you like to provide us with your updates and reports?
Sure, thank you. Not an awful lot of updates this evening, but actually, I think that the hiring is picking up to some extent because I've had an awful lot of new hire packets come across my desk recently, so that's really good news. And our youth services coordinator has started. Her name is Lisa McAllister, so we're excited to have her on board, and especially in light of the fact that Recreation Supervisor Julia Madison has submitted her resignation, and her last day will actually be this Friday. So Julia supervises that area, and so it's nice to have that coordinator on board. Other big thing happening for us that we haven't been able to do in a couple of years due to COVID is we're having our annual staff training, and we're really excited about that. That's going to happen on Saturday, May 21st, and our keynote speaker is going to speak on equity, inclusion, and diversity, so we're really excited about that. That's all that I have this evening. Any questions?
Any questions for Director Walker? No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Director Walker. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 13, reports of the commission. So tonight we have quite a few appointments of commissioners to various committees of the Parks and Rec Commission. You all should have seen in the April agenda packet, the committee descriptions were included there of all the various subcommittees of the Parks and Rec Commission. And for you all just to get insight on what they do and what you may be interested in serving on. And so as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different opportunities to sit on a different committee or subcommittee of the Parks and Rec Commission. And so I guess what we'll do is we'll just go one by one and seek out interest. I'll accept a nomination in a second, and we will have the opportunity to discuss the nomination prior to a roll call vote. So we'll move on to the first item, 13A, appointment of 3 members of the Parks and Recreation Commission to serve on the Facility Naming Committee. Are there any volunteers or any commissioners interested in the committee? Commissioner Oz, were you interested in serving on Facility Naming Committee?
Certainly. Please put my name down.
Okay, so is that a motion? Is that a motion? Can I get a second for? Okay. Wait for Tracy to get back. So there's a motion
Chair Vasquez?
Yes.
On this one, since you're appointing three members, I think you guys have the option, you know, it
kind
is
of
up to
bundle
the
them?
commission that you can list off the three members that would like to. And I also think that, that a member, commissioner does not have to be present to be nominated and put on a committee. So, so you guys have fun with Commissioner Berman.
There you go.
And I will just add to this, that this isn't a huge commitment. It's, you know, infrequent that we need to name facilities, but we are going to need to name some parks in the likely near future. And this is, again, not a huge commitment, and it's spelled out pretty clearly how this happens within our facility naming policy.
I would just add, I would be interested in serving on this too. I don't know if there's other folks. Commissioner Shea, let me open your mic.
I just actually had a question. So can we serve on two different subcommittees concurrently? We're not isolated, just since it appears there's more slots than there are commissioners, but I just wanted to double check.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, in an ideal world, each commissioner would be serving on a committee, but you can certainly serve on more than one committee.
Okay, so it looks like I have two names. Can we move forward with two names, or do we absolutely need a third? Sorry for the questions.
You know, the reason there's three is for tie-breaking purposes. And the prioritization of the names that will be put forward.
I'm happy. So Commissioner Shea. Okay, so it looks like we have a motion for volunteers, Commissioner Oz, Chair Vasquez, and Commissioner Shea. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. So second by McMahon. And roll call vote.
Commissioner Oz,
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez. Aye. Commissioner McMahon.
Aye.
Commissioner Shea.
Yes.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Chair Vasquez.
Yes. All right. Okay, so moving on to B, appointment of one member of the Parks and Rec Commission to serve on the Youth Sports Advisory Team. Are there any volunteers?
I would like to continue to be on the advisory. Almost ready to keep up with me.
Sorry, I didn't have your mic open there. So Commissioner Thompson?
That's a big if, I know.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, so I guess motioned by Thompson, seconded by Gutierrez. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Oz,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Aye.
Commissioner McMahon.
Aye.
Commissioner Shea.
Yes.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Chair Vasquez.
Yes. Okay, so next item is appointment of one member of the Parks and Recreation Commission to serve on the Vacaville Arts and Cultural Alliance. Do I have any volunteers for that commission or committee? Yes. Oh, let me.
Serve on it. I would like to continue to serve on that committee if allowed.
Okay, so Commissioner McMahon, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so motion by McMahon, seconded by Thompson. And roll call vote.
Commissioner Oz,
Aye.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Aye.
Commissioner McMahon.
Aye.
Commissioner Shea.
Aye.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Chair Vasquez.
Yes. Okay, so item D, appointment of one member of the Parks and Recreation Commission to serve as liaison to the Arts Advisory Committee. Do I have a volunteer?
I'd like to join that committee.
Okay, so Commissioner Gutierrez.
I don't know if Commissioner Oz.
I would like to join that committee as well, but I know there's only one slot, so.
Okay, so do I have a second for either motion? I don't know. Is there two motions on the table?
So, I think you probably need to call for a motion. I think you have 2 volunteers, so you probably want to call for a motion from the commission.
I'll make, Chair Vasquez, I'll make a motion to nominate Commissioner Gutierrez to that commission.
Okay, thank you so much, Commissioner Oz. So diplomatic of you, I appreciate it. And you're not even here. Okay, so I have a motion on the table for Commissioner Gutierrez for Arts Advisory Committee. Do I have a second? Seconded by Shay. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Oz,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez. Aye. Commissioner McMahon.
Aye.
Commissioner Shea.
Yes.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Chair Vasquez.
Yes. Okay, and then last item, E, appointment of one member of the Parks and Recreation Commission to serve on Play for All Committee. Hold on, Commissioner Shea.
I'm interested in serving on the Play for All committee.
So Commissioner Shea, and so Berman currently sits on that. He's not here. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion by Shea, second by Gutierrez. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Oz,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Aye.
Commissioner McMahon.
Aye.
Commissioner Shea.
Aye.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Chair Vasquez.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just writing my notes. So we don't have 3 folks on the facility naming committee. Oh wait, we do, sorry. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I was thinking we didn't appoint Berman to anything, so. Let me read. Commissioner Shea?
I'm happy to concede my slot there, just for, so that we're spread out a little more evenly. If somebody would like to second that, or.
Sorry, Andrea.
I would just say, based on the fact that we did a motion and a roll call vote, if the commission wants to consider it, you'll need a motion for reconsideration of that one.
And I just wanted to add, remember that, in just a few months, you'll be looking for somebody to appoint to the Creek Walk Band Selection Committee for next year, and then shortly thereafter, you'll be looking to appoint someone to the Vacaville Performing Arts Theater Season of Shows performer selection.
Okay, so we'll have other opportunities then potentially for Commissioner Berman to serve in another capacity. Yeah, he's not here. Okay, I think that are all the appointments. Thank you all so much for volunteering to serve in an additional capacity with the committees. So now we'll move on to the reports of commission. Commissioner Oz, do you have any updates or reports from your end?
Yes, thank you, Chair Vasquez. I just wanted to let everybody know that Commissioner Gutierrez and I have been reviewing applications for the Arts Advisory Commission, and I think we're tentatively scheduled for interviews on Thursday. So I'm looking forward to that. But other than that, I just wanted to thank Tracy and Chair Vasquez for indulging me and allowing me to participate by phone from Idaho. And so I appreciate you're indulging me, and I want to just commend the professionalism of Tracy and the city in getting this arranged for me. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
And I also just look forward to seeing everybody in person next month.
Yes, thank you so much. That's what I was just going to say. Look forward to meeting you in person next month. Commissioner Gutierrez?
Hi.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yes, definitely. I look forward to joining Commissioner Oz with the interviews that will take place next week. I had the pleasure of doing that last year. You really get to know a lot of people who are interested in, serving their community. So I do look forward to that. I also want to say, because I know she won't say it herself, but Commissioner Shea put on an amazing event, the BU event at Andrews Park on April 24th, serving the special needs community. We had members from Play for All Park, Vacaville PD, Parks and Rec, several other organizations were there as well as a ton of community members who really were able to connect with resources that they normally just didn't even know about. So I definitely want to thank Commissioner Shea for bringing that event, the second year that the BU has happened at Andrews Park. And I want to thank her publicly for having a successful event. I also had the opportunity of volunteering at the Lagoon on April 30th. Also, Melody Ocampo was there as well with the rest of, with other members of the Parks and Rec team. There was just shy of 600 participants there. It was really nice to see that much activity there at Lagoon Valley and being able to raise funds for a very special cause as well. And I enjoy being in person, although we got like the first little shivers out of the way. I look forward to seeing everyone next month.
Thank you, Commissioner Gutierrez. Yes, definitely got the first little shivers out of the way. Commissioner McMahon?
Yes, thank you so much. Nice job tonight, Chair. Very nice. I would also just like to say thank you to everyone. It's nice to be back in person, and I have no other reports. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner McMahon. You are a good example of chairmanship, so pass the baton. Commissioner Shea?
I just want to thank city staff and everybody that made this first time in person pretty seamless. It was very intimidating, but we got through it not nearly as scarily as I thought it was going to be. So, and to all the tech people and media people too, that was pretty painless. So I just appreciate that. And thank you for bringing up the BU event. We had a really good turnout. And just a really fun day at the park for our special needs community. So it was really good to see all the different resource agencies out there. And next year I'll be tapping in all you guys to just grow it and make it bigger.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Shea. Vice Chair Thompson.
I have nothing specific to report, but like everyone else, being my second time ever on the dais is both scary and a little bit nerve-wracking all at once, and exciting as well. Thank you, Director Walker and Andrea and Tracy, for all the extra training that you gave us, and particularly in the vice chair role and the chair role, working with us together this week, so we very much appreciate it. That helps set us at ease, I think everyone at ease, but thank you all.
I just have a quick few updates. Also attended the BU event. Commissioner Shea coordinated a beautiful event to honor and highlight our differently abled folks in our community, as well as providing the platform for the resources to share information and just really building support for that community. Also want to thank you all staff so much for the preparation for tonight, and just hopefully we can continue with our 2-hour bio breaks, 5-minute bio break at the 2-hour mark. Hopefully we don't have too many 2-hour meetings, but that will be, I guess, the stamp that I leave on the chairmanship mark. And just appreciate all of you commissioners for support tonight as my first commission meeting chairing, and also just hope that all the mothers on the commission and the staff, as well as in the city of Vacaville, have a great Mother's Day on Sunday, and hopefully get to do something relaxing, regenerating, rejuvenating, something to take care of yourselves, and hopefully folks and your family celebrate you. And I think with that, we're at adjournment, and just want to thank everyone. Thank the meeting, this meeting of the City of the Vacaville Parks and Rec is adjourned until the next regular meeting, which is on June 1, 2022. Thank you, Vacaville.